Welcome. Thousands of Kenyans from across the country today commemorated the country's first National Day of Repentance at Nairobi's Uhuru Park, led by the controversial Prophet Dr. Edward Owuor. During the National Day of Prayer, 6 presidential candidates and aspirants from across the country gave a pledge to the people of Kenya that they will not allow a repeat of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. The prayers brought together political rivals Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, who showed a rare display of friendship.
It was a day the country saw a rare display of friendship between political rivals and presidential candidates Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. It was also a day where politicking and mudslinging tactics were put aside, and those on the podium seemed to humble themselves.
Nitafanya yoyote kuona ya kwamba uchaguzi utakuwa wa amani na nitadumisha amani.
Though at first Mohamed Dida was not formally introduced, in the end he was not forgotten.
Kama utakuwa na amani, Mkristo, Muislamu, Muhindi, kila mwanadamu, hata wanyama, hata mazingira itapata kuendelea.
It is weak leadership ambayo inagawa nchi kwa ukabila.
Ni uongozi mzaifu ambao unagawa watu kwa ukabila.
Na tusikubali tena.
Na hapa kwamba kwa roho yangu yote,
with all of my heart,
kwa upendo wangu wote,
and all of my love,
na mtaungana na Wakenya wengine,
I will join together with my fellow Kenyans
kwa ajili ya amani.
Even a group calling themselves the outlawed Mungiki sect were here, giving their pledge to the nation.
Kila wakati tunaambiwa ati watu wa Mungiki ndio wanafanya fujo, ndio wanapigana, ndio wanafanya threat. Sasa hakuna.
It was a day when Kenyans looked back at the events of 2007-2008 post-election chaos with the hope that it will never happen again, and on this day tagged by church leaders as the National Day of Repentance.
In front of the nation, 6 presidential candidates made a pledge on behalf of their political parties and on behalf of their supporters that they will stand for peace. Now it's 7 days to March 4th when Kenyans will cast their votes, and all eyes are on these candidates and their supporters and their political parties to see if they will keep their word before and after the election. Catherine Amwando, KTN at Uhuru Park.
Now, D-Day is finally here, just hours away. The second and final round of Kenya's presidential debate is all set for tomorrow. All 8 presidential candidates have been invited for the 2-hour debate that will be live, or rather will delve on matters of national interest, including the emotive land issue. KTN's Asha Mulu reports on what you should expect.
On 11th February 2013, the Kenyan political scene underwent a revolution. For the first time in history, all presidential candidates shared one podium in front of the nation and the entire world to articulate why they are seeking to be Kenya's 4th president. The historic presidential debate, organized and hosted by the Kenyan media, attracted a heavy viewership of more than 40 million people from across the country. 2 weeks later, and it's back to the hotspot for the 8 presidential hopefuls. Monday, 25th February, the presidential candidates will face off yet again on matters land, economy, devolution and foreign policy. All candidates have been invited for the debate that will kick off at 6:30 p.m.
In terms of the questions we've been receiving from the public, the dominant thing on people's minds seems the dominant things on people's mind have to do with the economy, employment, cost of living, land, and the management of natural resources. So yes, we want to hear from the candidates, how they intend to address these issues which are uppermost on the minds of Kenyans.
The presidential debate production team has been preparing for the second round of the presidential debate to be moderated by KTN's Joe Ageo and Citizen TV's Udwa Kamimo. The two candidates, Paul Mwite and Abdu Badida, who had confirmed their attendance to the first debate late, have been factored in for the second one and will be standing at their new podiums. 8 TV stations and 32 radio stations will be streaming the debate live.
Ultimately, the objective of this debate is to ensure that Kenyans actually are informed about the candidates as they prepare to cast their ballot in a week's time.
At the Standard Group Center, NTV's business editor Wallace Kantai will be live from Studio B with a panel of experts for the pre- and post-debate analysis. The first presidential debate was lauded by the Kenyan voters, who are now waiting anxiously to see how their preferred candidate will perform in Monday night's debate. Ashamwilu, KTN, Sunday night.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has conducted mock elections in at least 1,450 wards countrywide. The exercise, which is part of voter education, was aimed at demonstrating to voters how to mark ballot papers. Unlike previous elections where voters cast their votes in a 3-ballot voting process, this time voters will have to cast the vote 6 times. To avoid confusion, the IEBC has designated colors for ballot papers that will match the leads of ballot boxes. For instance, the presidential ballot paper will be white, so will the lead of the presidential ballot box. The mock election was conducted in, among other areas, Vihiga, Wajir and Kajiado. The Jubilee Alliance was in Nyeri County today at the Dedan Kimathi Kamukunji grounds, where they exuded confidence that they would form the next government. The team later moved to Kirinyaga and Murang'a counties in their tour of central Kenya. Jubilee Alliance says it hopes to win in the first round. KTN's Karen Derry accompanied the Jubilee team and brings us the following report.
A week to the general election, the succession race is on high gear. The Jubilee Alliance was in President Mwai Kibaki's home turf in Nyeri at the Dedan Kimathi Kamukunji grounds. Jubilee leaders took to the podium in a bid to convince the Central Kenya voters that theirs was the team to vote in.
Wale walituwekea vizuizi mingi, lakini maombi yenu imetufanya tukafika umbali huu.
Amani na umoja ndio itatuwezesha kutimiza ahadi ambazo tumewekea wananchi wetu.
Accompanied by all aspirants vying for the different seats in Nyeri under the TNA party ticket, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto said they had overcome many hurdles and were optimistic of a win.
Mimi nawaomba wenzangu, mukubali mujitokeze kwa wingi na mapema. Sisi hatutaki kusikia mambo ya uchaguzi wa round 2.
Tuamshe wazee, shangazi, mjomba, nyanya, kukaa, kila mtu tupige kura mara moja tumalize hii kazi.
The two castigated their rivals for allegedly using underhand tactics.
Ile uganga yao ya opinion poll, hata hiyo imeanza kushindikana.
Hutakubali kujitokeza? Hutakubali kujitokeza? Asanteni sana.
The official campaign period is expected to come to a close on Saturday, the 2nd of March.
Less than a week before the general elections are held, definitely this is the make or break campaign time. And this being Jubilee's forte here in Nyeri, they've expressed optimism that they will form the next government. Carol Derry for KTN in Nyeri County.
In the final week of campaigns, the presidential candidates still managed to squeeze in some hours of rallies after some of them joined Kenyans at Uhuru Park in the morning for repentance prayers. Amani presidential candidate Musalia Mudavadi told Kilifi residents he had what it takes to deal with the land squatter problems at the coast. The Eagle Alliance team of Peter Kenneth and Ronnie Osumba campaigned in Nairobi, promising the intent to de-ethnicize Kenya's politics and leadership style. And the presidential candidate in the Alliance for Real Change, Mohammed Abdu Badida, led his group in launching their manifesto at Nairobi's Kamukunji grounds, promising to make life bearable for the common mwananchi. Here are the campaign issues for the day.
The Amani Alliance were in Kilifi County in their chase for a slice of the country's 340,000 registered voters.
Mimi nataka niwaambie, mimi sina shamba hapa, kwa hivyo mimi sina wasiwasi kwamba nitapoteza chochote. Kuna wengine kwa sababu wanashikilia maplot kubwa kubwa, wana wasiwasi kuzungumza mambo ya mashamba. Mimi hapa nasema niko tayari kuwahudumia, tutoe suluhisho.
The Eagle team held roadshows in Nairobi County before finally holding a rally at Huruma's Mathare Youth Sports Ground.
Mnajua mimi sina sera za ukabila. Na nyinyi mnajua niko hapo, mko mtaani. Mtaani hakuna sera za, tunaishi pamoja na tunaheshimiana. Na mimi nataka kuleta jamii zote pamoja.
And the Alliance for Real Change flag bearer Mohamed Abduba Dida became one of the very last candidates to table their manifestos before Kenyans when he released his plans for Kenya at the Kamukunji grounds in Nairobi.
Kama ni petroli, bei ya petroli lazima tujue imetoka nchi gani, imeingia na pesa kiasi gani, na wale wanataka kufanya biashara ya petroli ama diesel ama paraffin wataweka faida kiasi gani.
Dida is promising to reduce the tax burden on Kenyans by widening the tax bracket and reducing value-added tax on all commodities to 10%. Now, KTN, Sunday Night Live.
The CORD Alliance took its campaigns to Mombasa this afternoon, where supremacy battles within coalition partners in the region nearly marred the rally. An overwhelming crowd that welcomed Raila Odinga in Tononoka grounds breached a security cordon and nearly made it impossible for the politicians to address the rally. And as Ferdinand Omondi reports, both Raila and Kalonzo steered clear of regional politics and instead concentrated on rallying the CORD electorate.
The CORD Alliance finally made the long-awaited campaign trip to the historic Tononoka grounds in Mombasa, but inter-alliance rivalries played out in the open. The arrival of Raila was the beginning of chaos as the surging crowd breached a security cordon, and the politicians had a hard time accessing the main stand, which curiously had no seats. And as security operators forced the politicians through, some Wiper candidates were manhandled out of the stand. The scenes were chaotic, and even Raila could not stop it. ODM's Hassan Joho and Wiper Suleiman Shabal are locked in the race for governor in a battle which has brought political tension within CORD in Mombasa, while Wiper's Hassan Omar and Ramadan Kajembe of ODM will face off for the senatorial ticket, and Raila was careful not to make any endorsements. It took the intervention of ODM's Hassan Joho to calm the chanting supporters before a consensus was reached to keep coast politicians from talking. Kalonzo looked at the brighter side of things and asked the massive crowd to turn out in equally large numbers to vote for CORD. Both Raila and Kalonzo regretted the events of 2007 and vowed to rally their people to make sure that the results of March 4th, 2013 will not be in doubt. The gloves that were worn during the prayer rally at Uhuru Park swiftly came off on the campaign trail as CORD yet again took a swipe at the Jubilee arch-rivals over the touchy matters of ICC and land. It was an overwhelming turnout at Tononoka that no doubt must have left CORD wishing it was election day. Indeed, the final message was for the Mombasa electorate to turn out in large numbers on March 4th as the CORD Alliance pushes for the strategy of a first-round win. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Tononoka, Mombasa.
Thanks, Ferdinand. Now, later in this bulletin, KTN brings you Flesh of My Flesh, a special feature by KTN's Angel Katusia, a story that will highlight how prostitution has become a tradition of the coast passed down family lines. This story will also prove the sex business is not just behind walls, but also thrives in bush brothels in Ukunda.
Ukienda na mwanaume ni unaingia naye kwa msituni. Ukiingia naye hapo kwa msituni, hapo ambapo mnaenda kufanya hizo shughuli, inabidi anakuambia ako na 100. Unaona? Inabidi mnaelewana. Kama utakubali hiyo 100 nakubali, tunafanya naye shughuli, tunamalizana, naondoka na kuja nachukua mwingine hivyo hivyo.
Sasa vile nilitoka Ulaya, sasa ndo nimeingilia maisha ya kujiuza zaidi. Kujiuzia huko barabarani na kujiuzia hapa kichakani.
Akaweza ukahaba naifanya karibu miaka 10.
Mtoto atakwambia wewe mwenyewe ujifanyia kitu kama hicho. Wezaje kunizuia mimi? Na wewe ukiondoka sasa, nani atakayetulisha sisi hapa katika nyumba?
Flesh of My Flesh, a must watch coming up later on in this bulletin, so do stay with KTN. Traders and passers-by at Keroka open-air market witnessed a dramatic scene as a 41-year-old hand-cut pusher was forcefully bathed by members of the public. The man, who is said to have gone months without a bath, was washed in the full glare of the public as his wife and 2 sons watched helplessly. Residents stripped him naked and bathed him vigorously using powder soap and floor scrubbers. They also washed his clothes and innerwear, which were extremely dirty due to the nature of his work. The man who sells charcoal at the Keroka market tried to plead with the residents, but his appeal fell on deaf ears.
Ni vibaya sana mtu ukikaa mchavu, ni kama kudharau kazi yako. Kwa hivyo si unaona kama mimi nafanya kazi ya jua kali, si niko smart. Kwa hivyo sisi kama watu wa jua kali tusijitarau, tufanye kazi, tukae watu wasafi, hata tukue na afya mzuri. Nguo mke yangu anaoga, anavua nguo. Mimi nakwambia ukweli, anavua nguo. Lakini ukivaa mizigo kwa chafu, sasa mtu anasema wogi. Anasema wogi.
You are watching KTN Prime, and still to come in this bulletin, Mutahi Nguni's take on the general election. Stay with KTN. That interview will be live here. We'll take a short break now. Debutants Homeboys upset regulars Karuturi Sports 3-1 to sit above veterans after the first weekend of the 2013 season. League returnees Bandari were not lucky as they were shot down 1-0 by former champions Ulinzi Stars in Nakuru. Sophia waited till late to pick 3 points in their 1-0 win over Thika United.
So it's going to be a great exhibition.
KCB produced the highest number of goals on the first weekend of the new KPL season. The Bankers netted 4 goals in 34 minutes to shred City Stars apart in an early kickoff at the City Stadium. Clifford Alwanga opened and closed the Bankers account, with Benedict Owor and Jacob Kelly adding a goal apiece in between.
I think they have all their shots on target.
Sofapaka left it until the 83rd minute to find the net, and it was Eugene Asike who made coach David Ouma a happy man with the only goal of the day at the City Stadium in the second kickoff. Chemelil Sugar shared the spoils with AFC Leopards at Kasarani as the Felines finished the match with 1-man lace following the red carding of Mike Baraza. Western Sima travelled to Muhoroni and returned back to their base in darkness after their hosts switched them off 2-0. The story of the opening day was debutants Homeboys' 3-1 victory over Karuturi Sports. Mathara United were lucky to pick 1 point in the barren draw with Sugar Millers Sony. Ulinzi Stars denied returnees Bandari a memorable comeback with a 1-0 defeat at the Afraha Stadium in Nakuru. Joshua Kimboy, KTN Sports Today.
Dixon Chumba resisted tight competition from well-oiled competition to win the United Nations Environmental Programme half marathon held in Gigiri this morning. Chumba beat close challenger Jackson Limo in the tight battle to take the top honours in a time of 1 hour 4.32 minutes. Birmingham silver medalist Phyllis Ongori won the women's equivalent in a time of 1 hour 8.59 minutes.
The annual UNEP Half Marathon brought together the country's future prospects, and those who participated in the men and women's races were out to showcase their individual talents. In the women's 21 kilometers race, experience played a huge role for the top finishers. Phyllis Ongari showed that she has been working hard during the off-season as she kept the competition at bay to win 1 hour 8.59 minutes. The race that started at the KTTC grounds in Gigiri saw Eunice Kioko finish in second place in a time of 1 hour 9.24 minutes. Helen Chepkurgat came in third, clocking 1 hour 9.36 minutes. The men's race attracted more than 80 participants. Dixon Chumba was indeed the man to beat as he withstood challenge from his fellow training partners to win the race in a time of 1 hour 4.32 minutes. He was followed by Jackson Limo, who clocked 1 hour 4.51 minutes. John Lotiang came in third in a time of 1 hour 4.51 minutes.
Sema tu wacha nijaribu kuanzia 15k. Unajua Boston ni mlima tena. Nikasema wacha nijaribu. Ikifika wakati wa kukimbia Boston niko vizuri.
Ni mbio mzuri sana ambazo zitawezesha vijana wetu kuendelea kukua kwa vipawa zao, ambapo nafikiria leo washindi wenye tutaanza kupata leo wataweza kukompiti mbio za kimataifa na wataweza kufanya vizuri.
The marathon will also be an avenue for Athletics Kenya to select its best for the forthcoming international marathon calendar.
Staying with athletics, Dennis Kimeto claimed his first marathon victory in only his second race over the distance when he won the Tokyo Marathon, the first of the six-legged world marathon major races. The 29-year-old finished in a course record time of 2 hours, 6 minutes and 50 seconds. He smashed Victor Rothlin's 2008 record by 33 seconds. Last year's winner Michael Kipyego finished 8 seconds behind Kimeto in the runners-up spot, with Bernard Kipyego completing the Kenyan clean sweep of the podium. It was the first time the Tokyo race had featured as a world marathon major, with Kimeto's victory putting him top of the standings in the six-legged contest that takes place over 2 years, with events in Boston, London, Berlin, Chicago and New York. Ethiopia's Aberu Kedebe and Yeshi Esayas finished first and second respectively in the women's race. Across in Hong Kong, Julius Maisei won the Hong Kong Standard Chartered Marathon. It was the first time he was taking part after 2 failed attempts. Sylvia Brandler's national record of 1500 meters set in 2009 was broken by Muteti Emily on the last day of the Kenya Swimming Association season opener at the Aquatic Stadium in Kasarani. Muteti clocked 19 minutes 57.22 seconds, beating Sylvia's 20 minutes 56.12 seconds time set 4 years ago. 11-year-old Betty Kabir from Peponi School also stole the show after finishing third in the boys 1500 meters freestyle, beating the age team record. Kangrahaman Karam from Aga Khan Academy and Saken Abil from Braben dominated in the boys 100 meters backstroke, finishing first and second respectively. Karan clocked 1 minute and 19.88 seconds, while Nabil managed 1 minute to 1.11 seconds. The swimmers who will take part in the Africa Zone 3 and 4 swimming championships will be considered for the 15th final World Championships in Barcelona.